Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Optimizing Loyalty and Online Ordering for Revenue and Retention, presented by Convenience Store News and sponsored by Paytronix. I'm Melissa Kress, Executive Editor of Convenience Store News, and I'll be your moderator today. We'll get started in a few minutes, but first I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. The materials in this webcast have been reviewed by our editorial staff. However, the views of our speaker today are his own and do not necessarily reflect those of Convenience Store News or our publisher, Ensemble IQ. One of our goals is to make this session as interactive as possible. You can use the Q&A function on the left side of your screen below the presenter headshots to ask questions throughout the webcast. I'll hold these questions until the end and then pose them on your behalf. Your identity will remain confidential to the audience. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will follow up with you via email. You can also use this section if you have any technical questions about the webcast itself, and you will get a direct reply from our webcast producer. At the end of the event, we'll have a webcast evaluation survey. We encourage you to provide feedback using this feature. If you wish to review this webcast or share it with your colleagues, a replay will be available within 2 hours. So now on to the presentation, Optimizing Loyalty and Online Ordering for Revenue and Retention. Integrating your C-Store's online ordering platform with your loyalty program is more than a smart strategic decision. It's one of the simplest ways to accelerate profit and future-proof your business. In this webinar, Donnie Fairbanks, Senior Loyalty Strategist at Paytronix, will dive into the latest approaches that combine the power of loyalty and online ordering to increase customer brand affinity, boost guest retention, and drive revenue. We hope after today's webcast, you walk away with 3 key takeaways: how to streamline your operations by integrating online ordering with loyalty programs, the strategies you can implement to increase customer loyalty and retention, and ways to explore how to leverage data from integrated systems for targeted marketing, personalized offers, and better decision-making that aligns with your customer preferences and behavior. So please welcome Donnie Fairbanks to the virtual stage.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. I am Don Fairbanks. I am a senior strategist at Paytronix, going on 4 years now, specifically focused on C-stores. I'm a loyalty lifer. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. Had a lot of background in other categories, which I bring to this, and kind of a unique perspective that I hope you appreciate. Not the least of which is with regards to loyalty. I view loyalty as that critical connection that needs to exist between a brand and its consumers. And in the modern world, that is a one-to-one requirement for really getting consumers to go deeper into your brand, to spend more, do more. And I hope as I go through this, I'll kind of convey how the added dimension of online ordering extends that deeper commitment and value of those customers. So broad strokes on the agenda I'm going to cover. I'm going to briefly outline kind of the current landscape of online ordering, more so than loyalty. What are those benefits of bringing these two together? I use integration pretty liberally throughout this. I don't mean that in the technical sense. I'm not going to get into tech stacks and how they, the configuration of POSs and such. I'm going to really talk about, like, from a loyalty and a behavior modification standpoint, how these two things work together to drive behaviors and increase revenue. I have a couple case studies for you, talk about some of those measurement KPIs and exactly what we should be looking at and how we should be looking at it, future trends we're seeing, and they all start with AI, and then implementing best practices as a broader spectrum. I litter throughout this some tips on using the various tools and such, so hopefully that is good knowledge for you all. So my top 3 takeaways are just a little different than Melissa's, but it's the same net. Basically, the power of, again, connecting loyalty with online ordering is threefold. And the first of these is it expands those behaviors that members consumers are doing. If you have them in both of these buckets, you're going to see them more, you're going to get more from them, and you're likely going to retain them for a longer basis. The second of these buckets talks to sort of how we get people into these and how we integrate these two platforms through those personal experiences and those rewards that are encompassed in a loyalty program. You have so much information, and that's what particularly drew me to C-stores. You have so much information about the consumers and the customers that come through your stores. We get all the transactional data on our end. We're able to look at that and really mine out what their behaviors are, what kind of clusters they fall into, and be able to get a little more prescriptive about how we drive those behaviors moving forward. And again, online ordering is a particularly interesting example because it really is a delivery channel that we have direct access to influencing. So as members are able to use that channel, we know who they are, we know what they've done, we know what everybody else has done. And I'll kind of talk to how we've used that knowledge to influence that behavior and maybe optimize what they're spending within that order process, if you will. And the last of these is data-driven growth. So data is the thing. That is what you get from loyalty. You get full spectrum kind of visibility into consumers, what they're doing, how they're behaving, interacting with the offers you're putting in front of them, the products you have on shelf, and any of the services you're offering to them. It behooves us to use that data, especially in the current world where we have AI and machine learning tools that can bring scale to bringing all that down to where we can actually apply it on a dynamic basis. So now I'll kick into the rest. So the current landscape of this, and I'm kind of showing the diffusion of innovation chart here. Online ordering is, and I'm assuming that most of the people on the phone listening have it in place or are seriously considering it. But I think is a broad concept within C-stores, we're still probably with the pragmatist, that was well. The conservatives, the skeptics, they're over the hill, if you will, in terms of we'll get to them. But currently, the uptake is one of, I think, wide open eyes of, does this work within C-stores? And it's an important thing to look at. And I'm not going to say it's going to work for all C-stores 100% of the time. You're like Coke smokes and fill up kiosk. Maybe it's not going to benefit them, but for everyone else, the way the industry is turning and sort of that future state of having more specialized products rather than commoditized products, especially food service, this is a really good channel to have in place, to have actively kind of embraced by your member base. And if not today, it's like within 3 years, I think you're going to find this to be table stakes. And it is that, best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, second best is today. Well, we're kind of already behind the ball a little bit. This has been out there for 3 or 4 years. It's getting sharper all the time in terms of its ability to, again, drive behavior and increase revenue. But we're here today and talking about it. So behavior trends that favor these integrated systems. So we don't just say or conveniently use logic to say that, yeah, you should be having online ordering along with your loyalty program. The two really work well together, and they align well with what you're trying to achieve with this. Some of those top performers that are currently offering online ordering and do it the right way, 60% of all orders coming through that channel are through loyalty members. So if you have a good base, you're not doing this yet, know that you have a seeded field, if you will. It's ready to go. 37% of all transactions are coming from loyalty. In the best case, those are the brands that are out there that are doing this. And that is a high level of penetration. And some of the best in class, you might have well above 40. That means that a lot of your business is coming through your loyalty channel. And it's just a little bit of a tilt to take those people that are filling that bucket, if you will, and move them over to online ordering through features, through offers, etc. Higher retention rates. So again, if we look at programs that have done a nice job of integrating that loyalty and online ordering experience, 85% of them are coming back month over month, versus industry is, somewhere 70, 75 as a general rule. So considerably above that, but a very high rate. The growth of online order value, I've seen this as low as 10% and as high as twice dailies at 55%, meaning that those non-loyalty values go up pretty dramatically with the loyalty members. And part of that is due to the fact that you're able to talk to them and you're able to understand that they are using the channel or they're not using the channel and act accordingly. And they order more. Those loyalty members, they absolutely respond better to promotions. But again, this all paints the same picture, as that is, these are people who have opted in, raised their hand to say, I want to hear from the brand with the promise that I'm going to see some value. And in this case, that value comes through an online service where they can get more from the brand. So benefits of integrating these two programs and platforms. And I've already beat on this a little bit, but they do create that sort of growth flywheel in that they expand on each other. You will see that members who are active in both of these order more frequently. They order more items each time, or a little higher spend levels. They respond better to promotions, like I mentioned, but they also advocate for the brand and the service. These are people that typically aren't afraid to talk about these programs and share it with their friends. That endorsement is so much more powerful than anything you can tell them through your paid media or any other channels. So the proof of this is when we start looking at the raw metrics of it. The one on the left here speaks to that retention rate. And this is a 90-day retention rate. But if we look at those consumers who are using online channels only versus in-store to shop, and then we look at the ones that are doing both, you see that it dramatically jumps and it stays at a very high level. On the frequency side of things, again, you're more than double your online only people, and you're much, much higher than your in-store people. So yeah, we want to get them on both of these channels. Online ordering, again, gives them a reason to want to be on that second channel and be using it regularly. So the payoff on all this comes in the form of customer lifetime value. This term has a lot of meanings to a lot of different people, depending on if you're CPG or in retail and other things. This is based on the PX or the Paytronix kind of proprietary approach to this, where we're looking at your entire lifetime as an individual consumer of what is your spend levels, what are your recent purchases, what are your, how regular are you purchasing, and what is your likelihood to be lapsing off of the brand. And then it gives you a future value based on that, that is more directional than it is an absolute. This is always changing. So if you visit 5 days in a row and you spend more than you normally do, it's going to be elevated. But for the most part, if we look at this in the aggregate and we pull cohorts out of here, those cohorts that are doing online and in-store, much, much more valuable in terms of what they're likely to spend, again, throughout their lifetime with the brand versus the other two channels. And again, loyalty is uniquely, I think, set up to kind of drive this cross-channel adoption and get those folks into both channels. Again, they're hand raisers. They want to hear from you, so they tend to respond. So some of the tips for getting them and increasing that lifetime value, if you will. From a retention standpoint, it's important to understand what their cadence is, how often they're coming. Are they a weekly? Are they a monthly? Are they coming every other day? Are they very erratic, or are they very predictable? These help communicate to and break out different cohorts again within the program, and tell you what is going to be the best way of communicating with them, and delivering offers, rewards that kind of drive that behavioral shift, but also tell them that, hey, this brand is kind of paying attention. I slowed down a little bit. I missed a couple visits, didn't get fuel for the last month, and they gave me a nice fuel offer. These things kind of say the brand cares. And that is my big point there, is make members feel valued. If you want them to stay in the program, if you want them to continue to pick your corner versus the more convenient corner, caddy corner that's maybe another competitor, these are the coin flips that you'll win if you have this in place, if they feel that the program understands them and their needs and kind of uniquely serves that. So boosting trial and frequency, you want those rewards, and this, it can't be overstated. I know it's super obvious, but relevant incentives, understanding what kind of incentives move their needle. And we know this historically, what they've responded to. And we place those on those online orders, and we get them to do that behavior over and over again. We know if we get to them to a third or a fourth transaction, they're 90+% likely to continue to order from you. So it's basically just one of those things: is seed the field, keep watering it, and then you start to be able to leave it go, and it lives on its own. Personalized communications and offers to those to motivate that first offer. So again, or first order. We know these people and whether they've ordered or not. Those that haven't ordered, give them a little prompt, give them a freebie, if you will, in that first order, but continue to kind of poke them a little bit, because if we can get them over, and I'm going to get into this in a minute with mobile, but if we can get them into that other channel, again, their behaviors start to expand organically. And sort of a best practice we like to look at is creating member journeys. So we see those clusters and those groups, if you will, of people that are behaving very similarly. Let's pull that in through the data, kind of learn from it, maybe use IA to apply on this to pull out the big insights, have that inform how we're marketing and targeting them and serving offers and such, and then evolve that over time. It's an iterative process, and we continue to get more refined. But then the last of these is boosting spend, incentivizing upsells. Again, we are a part of that experience. When they're going through the checkout process, we know that they're in there, they're checking out, that they put things in their basket. Let's put something in front of them. Let's, maybe throw the cookie at the sandwich soda offer, knowing that this guy has a sweet tooth. And then lastly, loyalty rewards in place of discounts. So maybe we don't have to give discounts on the actual things they're ordering versus give them more currency or bonus currency within the program. We bring them in, we get them using that currency, and the effort of simply redeeming in the program is an added value, and it is a retention play as well. So the last in this section is talking about the mobile app, because granted, you can order online, you can order through a mobile app. Trying to train them on that mobile app engagement, especially with their apps, and some of this is going to be master of obvious, but once we get them in there, we can train consumers on that active app engagement, and that's important. You don't want them to use it one time to maybe get a fuel discount and forget about it. We want to iterate and get them ordering off of this, drawing down offers off of it, maybe getting fuel discounts, whatever it is. But I want them in that app. Those are your richest consumers. As you can see, 45% higher MLV for those mobile app users. These are people who, much easier to communicate with. You have multiple channels now. You have push, you have pull, you have email, text. All of these channels can be utilized. Gives them immediate access and says, hey, the brand cares about me because they're making it easy for me to get in there, get the things I want. And all this builds on that convenience promise. The kind of the core of your category is making things easy for consumers, that they don't mind maybe spending a little more than grocery because they're in, they're out, they're very targeted and strategic with this. yeah, let's extend that to the mobile channel and make it so that they can get the things they want, possibly just waiting for them to walk in the door, pick up, and walk out. And it acts as an efficient engagement and acquisition point. A fair amount of, in one of the case studies I'm about to show you, is kind of built around growing a new audience using online ordering. And you're throwing value into it, but every single person that's coming into that app, if they're signing up, and you make it so that that's kind of the direction they're funneled, they're signing up for the program. And similar to what Starbucks does, who I think is kind of top of the heap, not in this channel, but obviously is a global player in the spaces. They put everything in their app. And it basically is so well integrated that it's kind of a seamless experience for the user. And it has taken over pretty much all their other channels. All right. So a couple case studies. I'm getting a little dry. So Rudders is a longtime Paytronix client, but it's a good online ordering story. They had a distinct problem in that, well, it's a good problem. They're very food focused, and they had an extensive menu. So a lot of items on there. At key times during the day, you could run into kind of traffic jams around people ordering and wait times and things of that nature. An obvious and well-utilized solution to this was online ordering. So if we can have some of these orders coming in, and even more so, order ahead functionality that they're using, you start to see that you can manage those ebbs and flows of food service on a more aggressive basis. They also did the interesting thing of gating this to just their VIP loyalty members. So if you're not a member in the loyalty program, you're kind of out in the cold a little bit with online ordering. I love the approach. About 37% of their checks are attributable to loyalty. And, they've done such a good job of integrating that loyalty into their business. The second part of this is driving frequency. Just that simple order ahead tool drove 25% increase in visits by people in the loyalty program. And then lastly is, this is obviously working. Spending is 10% more on every visit with those people that are a part of this. They have a very high rate of, and I can't disclose it, but it's a very high rate of their orders coming through this channel that is all loyalty. So the second example here is Pump and Pantry. And it's a similar story with a little twist. They were fairly young in their build out of loyalty, and they did it with online ordering together. And basically, they threw a lot of their eggs into one basket for that online ordering to, one, facilitate, obviously, order ahead and order of their primary items. But it also was used to grow the program that was in its infancy and trying to get some scale. And they just did a great job of doing this for a small operation. And it kind of proves the point that, you don't have to be a huge, very sophisticated organization with global presence. You can do this with 14 stores and make it impactful to the degree that of those online orders, they've grown more than 20% of their overall sales. So the industry in general, I think we see about 5 to maybe 10%, 12% tops in terms of the percentage of online orders that feed in or represent total sales. So this is a very solid use of the channel to grow their business. So some of the tools we use to kind of power some of that optimal integration. The first of these is, and you likely all know this as well, but there are third-party orders, there are first-party orders. The third-party orders are coming through the DoorDashes and the Ubers and the Grubhubs of the world. And they come with cost, and they come with a certain inability to know who that orderer is. You don't have them in your ranks. They're anonymous. And again, Grubhub, DoorDash, they're collecting that information. You don't have access to it. So basically what we do is we enable you, when you're packaging up those third-party orders, to throw in communications and maybe a QR code that links them back to order through you at a first-party basis on that next go-round. You know, the discount can be as deep as you want it, but again, a good way to get them in, get them to register, and then get them start to ordering through a channel where you get 100% of whatever the profits are on that deal versus giving away 20%. And even if you're jacking your price up through that third-party channel to accommodate for those fees, it's still a better practice to get those consumers in on your prices and know who they are and be able to communicate with them and move them up the ladder, if you will. So loyalty sign up is another thing. And this is a real subtle feature that basically at the end of the session, after you've maybe gone through and ordered as a guest through your first party solution, is simply drop them a prompt and say, hey, sign up for this in the future. We'll help make your experience more seamless the next time around, easier sign in, recommend great products to try, even show you your last order so you can just reorder if that's the case. But this happens right in the experience, if you will, on our end at least, where you're able to, as a user, already have populated the mobile number you probably provided, the address you probably provided, and give you the ability to just fill in a couple more blanks and you're registered. And you get credit for that transaction. So you're actually earning that day against it. And then the third of these is this loyalty rewards integration. So what this does is, as they're on checkout, they're able to see if they have points that they can apply towards that order. You know, and maybe they have an offer on their account, or they have, you know, a number of points that they can utilize towards that order. And that too is seamless. You're able to, you know, pick those, pull them over, apply them, get that redemption discount on that order. It's a simple thing, but again, these are all things that make that experience much better for the user. And the last one that's not shown on here is, we obviously, within any of these, and it's a common feature, is the ability to serve recommendations for add-ons and upsells throughout that experience, knowing what they're ordering. You might like this as well. The AI angle of that is kind of nascent. It's young yet, but I think that's going to be the direction of these things, is understanding all that data around this one consumer. What is that best offer, best thing to put in front of them? So a couple things about measuring success. So typical measures that we're going to look at as we're looking at the efficacy of online ordering and loyalty as they work together. Obviously, I already mentioned CLV. So we're going to look at, you know, are we truly holding those members that are in both up to a higher standard? Are they delivering as they should within your brand against the broader category? Penetration rate. And this could be a penetration rate for the entire program. So your loyalty program or your loyalty transactions against total transactions, or it simply could be how many of those online orders are coming through members. And I would say you would track it on both fronts. Month-over-month retention we talked about, but very important. We want to compel these folks to continue to come back month after month. If that's their cadence and it's only once a month, that's fine. But obviously, there's value every time they're hitting the door there. Customer acquisition rate. So how many of the new customers that we're bringing into the program are we also lining up with online ordering? So are we getting all those folks who are coming into online order to register? And and it should be a fairly high portion of that overall audience. Average spend per check is a no-brainer. Yeah, we want them to spend as much as possible on those checks as part of that recommendations tool, the cross-sell tool. Then the last one of these is frequency. We just want them here more often. We understand their cadence. Let's drop something in there if they're on a 14-day order cadence. Maybe we get them here weekly. If they're weekly, maybe we get them here 2 times a week instead of 1. But again, we know who they are. Let's use that within what is a really intelligent flow to get them fully into the mix. So sort of the data-driven insights that fall out of this. So obviously we need to integrate that data that we're gaining on these. I've said it over and over throughout this thing. We have pretty deep knowledge of who these folks are. Let's use that and apply it to how their experience is going through with them. And again, targeting them with specific things where possible. Optimizing unique features of digital ordering because it is a very distinct channel, again, that we have a little time with them. Like you don't have this when they're coming to your counter in store necessarily. You don't have it at pump. This is a place where we can intercept again, that transaction experience and, see how we can increment checks, spend, all of those things. Personalizing this experience kind of goes back to that first point I made, but if we can show them, what you've ordered historically, like I personally do this. I order kind of the same things with a lot of the same places. That's super easy to me. I don't have to go through and find the 3-4 items. I always put in there. Want to order this again? Yes, done, go. It knows everything. It has my payment information, populates it, and we're off to the races. And then kind of utilizing these the AI tools to impact this. And I'm going to get into AI in a second here with the trends that are coming, but AI enables us to look at data like we've never looked at it before. It really does a great job of kind of simplifying and pulling out trends and common points so that we can see this stuff and apply it on a more of a real-time basis. It's not like 3 weeks of an analyst time trying to pull out what are the commonalities behind these 4 groups. AI does that very quickly. I skipped a slide there. All right, so kind of those future trends that I was just getting at. I'm not going to beat this to death because, as you can see, it's all AI, machine learning based, but it is the ability, again, to enhance that customer experience, to personalize things, and to help us dig into the data to not just see what those things are, but also to become more predictive. And that was always the promise of marketing. Again, I've been doing this a while. That was the pinnacle. If we can get to the point where we know what you might want and put that in front of you, it's very compelling and it's very powerful. We have that ability now, or it's starting to be the case. The enhanced segmentation tools, based on real-time data, we're able to throw these consumers and members in the program into very distinct groups, cohorts, segments, and look at those. Automated campaign management. So we have many tools that are doing this currently, and specifically, they can look at, are you lapsing on a category? Are you kind of falling off, not ordering coffee anymore, not ordering sandwiches anymore? You've moved on to something else, and we don't necessarily want to cannibalize and steal from the other thing you've moved on to, but you know what? We kind of want to keep you in the coffee category too. It's, it's almost a daily ritual for most people. So that has high value. And if you all of a sudden were on a 2-day cadence and now you haven't come in 2 weeks, let's throw you an offer. Let's get you back in there and hopefully get you back on cadence. Other ways to do this might be around, what your likelihood to respond to offers is. Do the BOGO offers drive more than the discount offers versus the free in store with minimum spend type things. And then the last one of these is to improve that program ROI. So overall, let's utilize this stuff again to see that data and find out the places where we need to incentivize or reward behavior, the places where we don't, and the other things that we're seeing in there that may be soft rewards, meaning we don't have to have a tangible value against them. All right, I'm finishing up now. So implementing best practices. So some of the best practices: evaluate your current situation or solution. Is it integrated? This is like the whole point of this discussion is these two have to work together. They have to be able to, look at data and kind of leverage it from one source to the other to help you to, again, target people and also manage that menu a little better. There are several players in the space that do this, but I'd say that is kind of table stakes for doing this the best way. Is find one place where you can kind of host your solutions. And that speaks to, I'm stealing a little bit of number 4 there, streamline with a single vendor. Lining up that tech stack that exists with them, the BI tool, the rewards engine, all those other things, and bring that together, that CRM engine as well. Learn from industry leaders. No kidding. Yeah, we have to, and I would pay attention to what other people are doing and simply incorporate those best practices, because once you have these other pieces in place, making those changes, continuing to iterate and change and make things a little better is something that you should never stop doing. There are certain brands that do this very well. There are certain brands that get by. And I think that once you've ordered from someone, which camp they fall into typically. Consider first-party online ordering. Again, if you're just doing third-party delivery right now, for whatever reasons, I mean, I get it. There are some logistical issues. I owned a food service business for a long time. There are logistical issues to doing delivery and managing those loads. But what if you can just do third-party delivery and, bring in DoorDash, again, Uber, any of those, to simply deliver at some set upon fee? Well, that's a big win. If we can start to do that, then you can reap all the benefits again of first party. Do it through your system, have it delivered through their system, but at a much lower cost. And lastly, another dummy here, so that make it easy on customers. Continually question, is your flow, is the way they are able to come into the brand, enroll in the brand, can they text to enroll, can they do it at register, can they do it easily through the app? Make all those things readily accessible. Some brands overthink this. They make it so complicated, so robust that it's just a challenge. That needs to be really simple. And that is in and of itself a statement to your customers. We care about you. We want you to really be with us for a long time. So we're doing whatever we can. And again, I'll bring it back to Starbucks. They have evolved their tool dramatically over the years, and it is a really good experience for the most part. And then the last slide here, just kind of bringing it all back together of why we want to bring those two together. Customers enjoy a seamless experience. Bottom line, they're able to do these things with minimal effort. Loyalty information, make sure that they're getting credited for it and that they're also being eased into the flow that where online ordering gives us, again, that ability to maybe be a part of that checkout process and bring up the value of it. Omni-channel, yeah, we want them in both channels. We want them to be coming into store regularly, but also to feel like if they have something they want to save time on, let them order online. And again, 35% higher lifetime value. So that's a lot you're leaving on the table by not necessarily having that online ordering component. Not that they can't do things within the space, but yeah, I think it's important that you understand that there is definitely incremental value that we don't see anywhere else on that level. Personalized offers, you have the data, you have the hand raisers, use it. Communicate with these people, serve them offers the way they want. Do they want to hear it through email? Do they want to hear it through text? Do they want push notifications? Or do they just want it served within the app experience? And then tie it all back to online ordering. Make sure that that's front and center within that experience. That they don't have to search for where they go to order something. It should be, it should tell them, here's where you are in the program. Here's, if you want to order, push this button, and then here's your offers and the other things that are subordinate to those messages. Loyalty program growth, just the fact that it is a much more efficient loyalty enrollment channel versus the things you may be doing in store, even online. There's a little drop off. Typically, you're getting 40, 50% of those. You're probably getting 80, 85, 90% of the people that are going to come in through the app, especially if you configure it so they have to. And lastly is future proofing, or bringing a future proofing strategy to this. That online ordering, again, is well positioned to help you scale as that category continues to shift away from the commoditized to the more specialized. And it has a hook as the kind of those headwinds that are coming with future change kind of hit us all. And that is it.
Well, thank you very much, Don, for sharing all this information today. We've got a few audience questions, so I'd like to get to them. But first, I'd like to remind everyone to submit your questions using the Q&A function on the left side of your screen. Also, if we run out of time before getting to your question, we'll get back to you. Our presenter will get back to you privately with a response. And please also remember to fill out the evaluation survey that will automatically appear on your screen at the conclusion of the event. We really like your feedback, and it helps us form future webinars and to bring you the most relevant information. So now on to the Q&A portion of our event. So Don, how do personalized offers and rewards based on customer data from online orders increase customer retention?
I covered this a lot during as I was going through this, but again, it is the understanding of who these people are on an individual basis in a sortable way where we can go in and know what messages, what channels, what time, and who they are and their kind of flow through the brand, if you will, because people do, they journey, if you will. And we try to be cognizant of those relationships and that flow. So utilizing all of that is a bit of a mad science, but I wouldn't get too caught up in the complicated elements of that so much as having a general understanding of it, getting something in the market. A lot of option paralysis these days with brands. Start doing campaigns, start measuring results, and start kind of flagging those individuals so you understand, again, what they're responsive to, and just do more of it.
All right.
Okay.
I may be an anomaly, but I'm not a coffee drinker. And so it annoys me if a promotion I get is for coffee, because it's useless to me.
Yep. And that happens a lot.
Yeah. Earlier in the presentation, you mentioned that 60% of online orders come from loyalty members. Does that exclude third party?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Because we're not going to know those loyalty members through third party.
Okay. That is true.
Yep.
So we have another question. So we have a retailer who recently launched an online ordering at about 20% of its stores. So how do they increase online ordering customers? Is it through email, push notifications, in-store signage?
Yes. The reality is, especially when you're launching this in a targeted way, so it's not a full footprint thing where you're going to do a big rollout. I would say those channels are great. I would also say that anything you can have your staff kind of recite within those interactions. So one of the most impactful things you can do is have your teams educated on these things and be able to just mention it. And I know they're busy and they're rapid firing people, but it makes a difference. And I think a lot of people, especially if they're ordering food, if they're ordering made to order things, utilize that channel. With regards to email push, in-store push, if they're doing it through a web experience, push is going to probably get you the highest response. In-store may get overlooked if you've got a ton of things happening within that store, but it is critical to that. I've seen brands put it on coffee cup cozies. I've seen them have it on napkins, just a QR code that basically says online order with us, get free cookie next order. that type of thing, it's super powerful.
So now when we come to looking at stores themselves, so we have a retailer. What if you have one employee working at a specific store? Can you still be successful in online ordering at that store?
It absolutely has its burdens. And I honestly, I wouldn't go so far as to say, yeah, you're going to get away with it with one employee, because I'm not going to have a firm footing on the volume that you're pushing through your doors. What I would say is you have options here. One would be delivery through third parties, but online, one first party ordering with that store. The other here is to simply do the economics of having an order period within the day that you have a second person staffed, to see if the incrementality of that affords you that ability. It's definitely a hurdle. And I would say, I would look at that critically. If it were me and I have one person, I really want them to focus on the job at hand and not have to worry if they get a rush that they have to fulfill 6 orders in the next hour or something. So I think the last thing I would say on there too is, maybe have some time gating that goes on, so you don't have all the orders falling into the same period. But yeah, that's what I would get.
Okay. So, when you think of online ordering, you traditionally think of restaurants. So if you are a convenience store operator, but they only have less than half of their sites have real food program, should you still do online ordering at every store, or should you just do it at stores that offer food?
No, and here's the thing. When this first came up, the online ordering capabilities, and it was early in my tenure with Paytronix, I was a little skeptical, knowing the dynamics of the industry, knowing the logistics of food service, of order and delivery. But to tell you the truth, I've seen fairly strong successes with sites that don't necessarily have food service, because you have potentially made to order coffee, you have other things, but you also have certain windows within the day, and it's usually in the evening, unfortunately, but they're people that are just looking to have like their Doritos and their, the 2-liter put in a bag and ready for them when they pull up. And there is some volume to that. I will say in good conscience, I think that it's stronger if you have a thing that there's a bit of wait time built into it. So made to order food, obviously, if you don't want to wait 10, 15, 20 minutes, the offering of this service absolutely is an obvious benefit to a user who comes in regularly, versus, them coming in and picking up their other things. But I also like that you're able to potentially order while you're at the pump, waiting for your fill up, and have everything potentially sitting there 4 minutes, 5 minutes later, assuming it's like 2 or 3 things already paid for, you get and you run. So in all these cases, I'm going to fall back on kind of a wishy-washy. You have to try these things out and see what the volume is with best effort, and then determine the ROI on it. And it's not a crime if you don't have stores with food or with made-to-order items, that you maybe turn that off at some point. But again, if you're going in the direction of most C stores, food's going to be a constant across your footprint for the most part.
Right. And I guess that goes back to, the best time to plant the tree. You may not have full food service across your network, but you will one day.
Yes. Yep.
So here's another question. Loyalty program membership is gold. All categories benefit from loyal members' increased spend and visits. You mentioned converting online order customers to program members. What other innovative, successful membership drives are you seeing?
Interesting. Innovative. Honestly, some of the most efficient membership drivers I've seen, and I did a whole webinar on it, was tentpole promotions that are basically free giveaways. So people that are like doing free coffee every Friday type programs, free sodas month long, 99-cent things even. If you market these the right way, they are super efficient registration drivers. because they show value in the program. And obviously, these things are gated just to the members in the program. And pretty much everybody's doing them. Wawa, Quick Check. These are players that really elevate those things, and you see them regularly, twice a year, 3 times a year sometimes, because they are so efficient at what they do. The other thing is, and it's old school, but it's giveaways, it's sweepstakes and those things. Those are built for registration driving. Don't tie them behind products and vendors that are supporting these things necessarily. You have to buy a Coke to get into this. Make them so you're giving away, gas for a month, gas for a year, something along those lines, because it really does drive again, for the cost of it, relative $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 of this. Maybe you pick up another 5,000 registrations as a part of it, of people who are maybe cherry picking. But the fact is, especially in this category, these are consumers too. They have to fill up the tanks. They have to get food. They have to get beverages. Maybe you can use these things to kind of steal away from the guy across the street and down the road that undersells you on gas by 5 cents.
Okay. So one other question we have is, what are the primary challenges C-store owners face when connecting online ordering with loyalty programs, and how can those challenges be overcome?
I think that comes back to this integrated systems, that your platforms are talking to one another. Very challenging if, again, your CRM sits one place, your loyalty sits another place, and your BI maybe sits in a third place. The more hands that are in this pot, that it comes here, it gets, the more complicated it gets, and the less efficient. And I'm not touting the Paytronix horn here. I think anyone that offers those services across these solutions is going to make your life a lot easier, because at the end of the day, if you can't take that data, make sense of it, and apply it within maybe a day or a week, it starts to lose some of its impact. Like, if we know what that member's cadence, their patterns are, what they're buying, how they're buying it, it behooves us to use that again to drive the program and get them more engaged and feeling appreciated within the program.
Okay, great. Well, we're coming up just about on the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap it up. Remember, if we didn't get to your question, you will have a private response. Also, if you're watching this on replay and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's at mkress@ensembleiq.com, and I can funnel those questions to Donnie and to his colleagues at Paytronix. So I would like to thank everyone for attending today's webcast, Optimizing Loyalty and Online Ordering for Revenue and Retention. It's presented by us, Convenience Store News, and sponsored by Paytronix. So I want to thank you again, Donnie, for joining us today. And everyone have a great day, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everyone.